Robert Ferringo with Doc Sports, here with your Wednesday college basketball handicapping extravaganza. I'm here with Raphael Esparza, also of Doc Sports. Don't forget that you can click the link below and get $60 free to use at Doc Sports to sign up for our college basketball service or to use for whatever sport you are interested in right now. We have daily NBA picks. Obviously, football is still heating up with the playoffs right around the corner. Take advantage of this free $60 that we are giving to you. You are welcome. All right, today we're going to break down 5 of the top college basketball games from Wednesday's action. Wednesday is a big day in college basketball. Wednesday and Saturday are pretty much the 2 biggest days of the week for college hoops action. And we're going to get it started in the SEC with what I personally think is the best game on the board for Wednesday. We have number 15, Alabama, going to Florida with a 7 p.m. tip-off. Raphael, I'll get it going. Where do you think the number is going to open on this game?
I can't believe you didn't think Tulane and East Carolina was the best game on the board. Tulane coming off a big win at Cincinnati the last time the Green Wave played. But I'll let you say an SEC conference is the best game on the board since you live in the South full time. But yeah, this game is going to be interesting. Both teams got 9-3, 10-3. Both teams have some really, really good coaches that coach well. I'm just going to say Bama has not covered that many games as of late. 0-5 against the spread, only covered 1 game in the month of December. Granted, they didn't play that many games in the month of December because not that many people played games in the month of December. But I would probably say Florida is probably going to be anywhere between a 5-6 point favorite on this one. Would not be shocked if it's a tad a little bit lower. But I would say Florida the favorite. I'm looking for the Gators. I'm hoping and praying that the odds makers make it a little bit lower. I think at home at the Swamp, with a team that's been struggling to cover games, I'm looking to play Florida in this one.
I think it's going to open around a pick or Florida maybe -1. I think it'll start small right around there. Florida, one of those teams, obviously, you touched on it, has been hit by COVID. They haven't played since December 22nd. So that's definitely working against them. The Gators are also just 3-3 in their last 6 games. But as you mentioned, Alabama hasn't been playing very well either. They had 2 of the best wins of the year, beating Gonzaga and Houston, 2 top 5 teams in back-to-back games in early December. Since then, they've only gone 2-2. They also had that weird loss against Iona earlier in the year. Raphael, what do you think about the main matchup in this one? Alabama loves to shoot the three-pointer. They're all about the three-point shot. That's been a staple of Nate Oates' offense since his time in Buffalo. But Alabama's not shooting it very well. They're only shooting about 32%. They're ranked number 224 in the country from three-point range against Florida's fantastic perimeter defense. Number 41 in the country in three-point defense. Again, that has been a staple of Florida over the last 5 years, has been them on the defensive end. How do you see that matchup playing out?
Yeah, I like the way Mike Wright coaches defense, especially covering the 3-ball shooting, which we know Alabama is going to be jacking up threes, hot or cold. We'll see tons of them. I just like the way Florida's going to play defense. I mean, they hold Central Florida. I know it was a neutral court to only 55 points. They're a defensive team. Their last 5 home games, I think all 5 of them were won by double digits. I think if it's a pick 'em, I'm all over the Gators in this one. But like you said, if Alabama connects on a 3-ball, we can totally see a flip coin on this one and a stolen win on the road for Alabama. I just think defense holds on this one. Give me Florida at home on a defense because I think their defense would be too much for Alabama, especially in the second half. You know, I'll trust Wright over Oates on defensive adjustments in the second half.
I agree with you that I lean on Florida on this game. The Gators are 7-3 in their last 10 against Alabama. They've won 3 of the last 4 as well. However, the road team, home court advantage is obviously huge in college basketball and especially in the SEC, some of those rowdy places down there. But actually, the road team is 5-2 in the last 7 meetings between these 2 teams. All right, now we're going to switch gears, go to the Big East. Creighton at number 19, Villanova. This game is at 8:30. Raphael, where do you see the number coming in on this one?
I'm hoping and praying that my boys at odds makers all over the world really make this total high because defense is going to rule this game on both sides. I mean, defense Nova's holding opponents to 63 points a game. Creighton 65 points a game on defense, holding their opponents. I'm hoping, give me a 144 total, please give me one. But I can't wait to watch this one. I believe this one's probably going to be one of the better games on the board, just beyond how both teams are going to want to guard the three ball, half court offense probably on both sides. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to remind me watching a Big Ten game on this one. I can't wait to watch this game. Defensive rules, I'm leaning towards Villanova, but Creighton's been playing some really, really good ball. I was talking about maybe fading Creighton when the season started and when they were struggling to cover against games, but boy, they have won. They have turned things around, especially again on the defensive side. I can't wait to watch this one. Please, odds makers, who cares about what your statistics say? Put up a 144 total for me, please.
Yeah, I agree with you coming into the season on Creighton. They lost as much talent and experience as any team in the country from last year's team. This is a really young Creighton team, but you got to tip your hat to Greg McDermott. He's a fantastic basketball coach and has been for a long time. He has his team playing really, really well. Interesting that this is a revenge spot for Villanova.
Yes.
Okay? Creighton has only played twice since December 15th, and one of those wins was last weekend, a double overtime win at Marquette. Good, true road game win for this young team. And the game before that was December 17th, where they hammered Villanova at home. So big revenge game for Villanova. Raphael, if I told you that this spread was going to come out around 9.5 or 10, would you say that that's too many points?
Probably, because wasn't the last game, wasn't it around 7.5? I think the spread was in the last game. So I think that'd be too high. Even you have to put the revenge factor on there. The total, if I'm not mistaken, 134. I think it opened up. I think it got bet down on that one. I think 10 would be too high. I would not be shocked if it's probably around 5 or 6.
Is Villanova underrated, overrated? They came into the season as kind of one of the Final Four favorites, but as I mentioned, they're only ranked number 19. What are you expecting from Villanova moving forward?
I thought they're going to be where they were. I mean, boy, they got shellacked against Baylor too. I mean, they did not look. Their offense was horrendous against Baylor. So I think they're a little overrated. I didn't think this team was as much as bad as we've seen Nova teams in the past. So I would think they're a little bit overrated. I think Creighton's playing the best ball right now if you look at these two teams and matchup-wise. So I would say they're a little bit overrated coming in the spot.
Well, I'm not 100% saying that I'm using Villanova, but I guarantee I will not use Creighton. I'm not going to bet against the Wildcats playing at home with revenge. It's not a role
no, me
they
either.
have to play often because they have dominated the Big East. But for me, that one's either a Villanova or a stay away. All right, next game on the board, we got number 25 Texas Tech at number 11 Iowa State. Iowa State, really one of the biggest surprise teams in the country this year. But just because they're a surprise team, that doesn't mean that they're a fluke. Where do you see this number coming in, Raphael, and what do you think about these two Big 12 teams?
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting on a number because you just said it. If you throw out that Baylor game that Iowa State played where they lost, they're one of the hotter teams that no one's talking about. Everyone still wants to talk about Duke, Gonzaga, Purdue, who lost to our boys, Wisconsin, which we all had to cheer for yesterday, even though we don't like Wisconsin. But the boss who cashes the checks likes Wisconsin. So big win for them. I don't know where this number is going to come out. It probably Iowa State probably be a small favorite, but I think the money that will come in on this one will probably booster it up because I think that the gamblers know about Iowa State. Joe Public with the USA Today, who's going to the bet window looking at rankings, are going to bet this one probably on the other side. This one's going to be interesting. I think Iowa State will get the love betting-wise, so I'm afraid we might get an inflated number, which for me will kind of suck because I'm looking to bet the Cyclones. I'm throwing that Baylor game out because Baylor was just a total mismatch on athleticism to anybody that play. If you don't have the athletes, the speed, and the size, you're going to look like chumps against Baylor. And so I'm going to throw that game on the side because I like the way Iowa State has been playing. I was really, really impressed on how they manhandled their big brother, Iowa, and how they played against Creighton. So that's the two games that I'm going to look at. I'm not going to look at that Baylor game.
Well, and, interesting to know that they actually covered the spread in that Baylor game. It was a 7.5 point spread. They were big underdogs in that game, and they kept it close and kept it competitive in that game. I'm with you. I see this being around a 2.5 point line with Iowa State as a favorite. The news, the big thing that I think might move this number actually is Terrence Shannon, leading scorer, best player for Texas Tech. He hasn't played the last 3 games because of back spasms. I think that's one of those injuries that they're just going to kind of monitor, where he might be in and out of the lineup throughout Big 12 play. But I do expect him to play. He hasn't played in over 2 weeks. He should be well rested. I'm not buying Texas Tech yet. This isn't a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but they've played one of the worst schedules in the country. They've only played 3 games against top 200 opponents. That's pathetic. They played Tennessee, they played Providence, they played Gonzaga. They lost 2 out of the 3 of those games, and their one win over Tennessee was, I believe we've talked about this before, one of the ugliest games I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was, they've been completely unimpressive. So it's not to say that Texas Tech doesn't have talent, but until I see them be a good team, I'm not going to bet on them to beat a good team. Iowa State hasn't played a great schedule. You mentioned the loss to Baylor, but they do have wins over Xavier, Creighton, Memphis, and Iowa. So I've seen Iowa State line up against good teams and beat them and play well. I haven't seen that from Texas Tech yet. So if we get a small number in this game, I think the Cyclones are definitely the way to go. All right, now
so you don't think Alabama State, Eastern Washington, and Alcorn State are really good teams that Texas Tech has beaten? Is that what you're saying?
It's just unbelievable. They did this with Coach Baird before. They would play really, really weak non-conference schedules, but they'd also dip into a tournament, or they'd play 2 or 3 marquee games. Like I mentioned, they did play the Gonzaga game. I give them credit for playing that game, but they also got blown out in that game. So how much credit do they really get? So, all right, we're going to shift gears here and dip into a little mid-major battle. We got VCU at Dayton. So, yeah, it's a mid-major, but these are kind of 2 name A10 mid-major programs. This is the Anthony Grant revenge game, right, Raphael? This is Dayton coach Anthony Grant going up against his old school at VCU. Where do you see the number, and what do you think of these 2 teams?
Dayton will be a small favorite, probably 1.5. A little bit shocked if we see a 2 out there. If we do see a 2, I'm going to probably look at taking VCU on this one. I think VCU's got the better team right now. I like the way they're playing ball. I know they beat up on some cupcakes, but when you struggled against Connecticut and at Baylor, what do you do to get your morale up? You play teams like FAU and Old Dominion, and you beat up on them and get some quick W's to get some morale up. So I think anything that's above 2, I'm going to be looking at VCU on this one. I think Dayton will probably be the small favorite. I would be shocked if we see more than 2 points on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be about 1.5, 2 points. The money will move it one way or another. So it's basically going to be pick the winner type of thing. No love for the Dayton home court advantage. Huh? They do have that home win over Virginia Tech, but you don't think that that'll play much of a role in this one?
I mean, they split their last 4 games. I was really unimpressed on how they got manhandled in the second half against SMU a couple of weeks ago. So I do see the love of the home field. Dayton's got a lot of home court advantage. It's a tough place to go steal a win over in Dayton. But I just don't like the way they're playing right now. And I just think VCU got over that hump and beat up some cupcakes to get some morale up. So I wouldn't be shocked if they steal a win here.
All right, well, I picked this game to talk about not just because they're 2 of the better mid-major programs because of the Anthony Grant angle, but also VCU hasn't played since December 15th. Dayton hasn't played since December 21st, all right? So neither one of these teams have played in weeks, multiple weeks. I want to ask you, Raphael, how are you handicapping these situations with these teams that have had these long COVID pauses? Do you think that they come out rusty? Are you holding that against them? Are you taking a wait and see approach with some of these teams that haven't played in 17 days? Do you think there's value betting against these teams right off the bat? What's kind of your take on this situation? Because we're seeing it all over the country.
For me, handling a situation, this is when you go to the team blogs and you just dig up as much stuff as possible. If you try to find out, are they practicing? Some of these schools, teams have not even been practicing. They just took a big, huge COVID break where we didn't have practice. So I try to find out what the kids are doing. Are they still having practicing? Are they still having shooting rounds? Are they scrimmaging at all? Because if they are doing that, then it's just as a game that they come back where, okay, they still have team morale. They still probably have the jump shots are still going in. But if you're facing a team that has just have done absolutely nothing, then you have to put the rust factor in there because I think the long balls won't be going in. You look at teams who shoot a lot of threes, I think will come out with a lot of bit of rusty. I look at a game where I looked at on Tuesday's game, Air Force and Colorado State, where Air Force hasn't practiced, haven't done anything, and now they're playing a tough team in Colorado State who are still perfect. So I look at something like that when you look at that. So definitely cram the internet, do some trolling, Twitter and all that to see what what teams are doing on these long breaks. Did they just let the kids go home and do no practice, and now they're hoping and praying that they come back and they don't have the Transformer Omicron variant, and now they're stuck doing absolutely nothing. Because I think that's where right now, this is what the internet it's best for, and Twitter's best for. You find out what the kids are doing when they take these long breaks. Were they practicing? Were they at shoot-arounds? Or did they just do absolutely nothing, went at home, gained some weight because you ate mom's cooking, and now you have to go play a game?
That's why he's a professional, folks. All right, you mentioned the Air Force game. That's it from the handicapping perspective. From the odds makers perspective, do you think that the sports books are kind of overemphasizing that break? You mentioned that Air Force Colorado State game. The line on that game was about 20.5, 21, where normally in that situation, it probably, conference game, I understand Colorado State's, it probably would have been about 14.5, 15, maybe 16, right in that range. So I think they tacked on an extra 4 or 5 points to that spread because of the long layoff for Air Force. So do you think that the odds makers are going to be overcompensating for these teams that haven't played in a while?
Yes. I mean, you're going to see some value because I think the odds makers are going to adjust way too much, knowing that the public is probably going to parlay and tease and trying to cover themselves right there. So this is when you can find some nice spots where maybe the odds makers just adjusted and maybe they thought they were going to get a lot more money when they really didn't get any money. Because let's face it, I know it's still bowl season. There's a bowl game. One more bowl game in national championship. The NFL playoffs are still going on. The NBA is still going on. But you can find some dark spots that maybe the odds makers maybe totally adjusted way too much because they thought they were going to get handle when they maybe didn't get the handle that they were hoping for. So this is where you can find some really, really good college basketball spots.
Good stuff. All right, the last game that we're going to talk about, North Carolina is going to Notre Dame. This is a 9:00 game. I think North Carolina is going to be a small favorite, maybe a 2-point favorite in this game. They're obviously, big dogs, ACC for a long time, but they've been terrible against the spread the end of last year and really the beginning of this season. We've already seen Notre Dame upset Kentucky at home, and we know that Mike Bray really has made his bones in his coaching career as being a fantastic underdog coach. What are you looking at in this matchup?
Remember, we were running to fade Notre Dame for the rest of the season when they lost to Illinois, Boston College. The list goes on. And then they swing for the fences and started playing some good ball as of late. I understand North Carolina will be a 2-3. I would be shocked if it's no more if we see a 3-point favor in this one. If North Carolina gets love, I might have to look at the Irish on this one, even though the Irish kind of gave me the double bird in football in their bowl games, thinking they were going to come out and play well for a new head coach, and I looked like a big doofus right now. No one liking Notre Dame in football. Hopefully I won't look like a big doofus because I think North Carolina I think they're the better team, better athletes. I think they play better defense in this one. I think the total will be in a high 140. So for me, no value on the total on this one. But I like the Tar Heels coming in this spot, even though they're going to be the favorite. 2, it would be shocked if you see 3. But I'm still heading that F button fade on Notre Dame. So I'll probably play North Carolina, and then I'll get the double birds again, and Notre Dame will screw me in college basketball like they didn't screw me in football.
Now, working for Notre Dame's advantage is that the home team has won 9 of the last 10 meetings between these teams. However, North Carolina has also won 9 of the last 10 meetings between these teams. They have been too athletic for them in the past. One of the really interesting things about Notre Dame for me this year, I agree with you. This was a team I was looking to bet against consistently throughout the year. They don't have a lot of moving parts. If you look at this Notre Dame team, they have 7 players that are averaging 23 or more minutes a game. Basically, that's it. And the next guy averages 3 minutes a game. They only play 7 guys. They don't have a bench. They just run out the same 6 or 7 guys, and that's who they're playing with. So as the season goes on, I actually think that it's going to get a little easier to bet against them as these guys get a little bit worn out. So, all right. That's it for this week, Raphael. I can't let you go without you giving away something free beyond the free $60 that we gave. Hit the link below. You got a free play for us?
I was gonna say I wanted to bet something like a game like Rhode Island George Mason, that total. I was gonna give a total on over on that game, but no, COVID had to not only get me during the holidays, but gave the team some bad love as well. So I'm gonna go to a game that's probably going to be a little bit out of reach. The Paul St. John's. The total will probably be in the 150s and on that, but that's not high enough. This total should be in the 155s, 156. I think the odds makers will probably put in the low 150s. I think a lot of points would be scored in this when DePaul doesn't play defense. DePaul's another team that likes to jack up threes as well. St. John's is going to be a very, very high tempo match. If it's in the low 150s, I say 150, 151, 152, bet it over. If it's anywhere in the 153s or higher, I would say pass on this one. But I don't think the odds makers would put it that high because they're going to try to get some love right away. So I'm going to give you the Paul St. John's, the Johnnies against the Blue Demons. Take it over if you can get the good number.
All right, and I'm going to give a free play from one of the games that we talked about, actually Notre Dame at North Carolina. I'm taking the Tar Heels. I still think that this team is a little bit undervalued, which is strange to say, right? Because they're a blue blood program. They're a big name program. They're going to get a lot of public action, but this is going to be a small number, and I just think they're better than Notre Dame. Notre Dame does play well at home. They did beat Kentucky. Mike Bray is a great underdog coach. I concede all of that, but I don't think that they're athletic enough to stay with this North Carolina team. North Carolina went to Boston College over the weekend and beat BC by almost 30 points. That wasn't even a game. And I understand Boston College hadn't played in a couple of weeks, but I think that the Tar Heels are building a little bit of momentum. I think you can make the argument that they might be the second best team in the ACC. And right now they're unranked. They're not a team that a lot of people are talking about, but I just think that they're a little bit better than what the public and what the odds makers are giving them credit for. And I think they'll prove it. They're not going to blow out Notre Dame. That's not going to happen in this game. However, I do think that they have enough talent, enough skill, and enough on the interior to get a win, maybe a 5 or 6 point win in this game. And I don't think that the number is going to be big enough to cover it. Take North Carolina. He's Raphael Esparza. I'm Robert Ferringo. Go to docsports.com and get signed up. All right, we'll be back next week. In the meantime, Carpe Diem. Good luck.